Well, Brian, you know who I'm surprised doesn't sell stock in themselves? They're so high on themselves. I think they're high on huffing their own farts, but apparently the Buckaroos, our friends Maddie and Nikki, have taken to Instagram to defend themselves over there's the debate in wrestling over who the cancer is. Was Punk the cancer? Or is the Elite the cancer? Or who's the cancer around here? And apparently they're so tired and fed up about being called cancers of wrestling and cancers of the locker room that they have taken to Instagram to defend themselves against apparently random fans that are just expressing their opinions.
Well, I think it probably bothers them, the fact that the narrative that they pushed, that a lot of people accepted and went with for a long time, has switched. People now realize that maybe the Bucks are bullshit artists. Maybe the Bucks are full of shit. Maybe AEW would have happened even if the Bucks weren't there. Maybe the Bucks don't mean anything anymore. Maybe all the things that people loved about the Bucks are meaningless now. And the Bucks mean less
sort of
today.
like the hula hoop and the pet rock. You talking about they were a fad? It was kind of temporary insanity. People were caught up in the whole bullet train or bullet club thing, and they slipped in and took advantage of people who were also mesmerized by the whole group thing and thought that they were integral parts of it. Talking about Maddie and Nikki, are you saying something like that?
I think that's actually a fair comparison. I think Matt and Nick may be the hula hoop and pet rock of AEW, let alone wrestling.
Well, but they're pissed off pet rocks.
Well, they don't like anyone pointing that out. Again, we saw the way it played out with you, where they didn't like the fact that you didn't accept everything they did as being great. And then it became this passive-aggressive campaign to discredit you, put you down, embarrass you, anything they could do. And they put things out there like he's out of touch, he's a shock jock. Then you'd see Dave Meltzer start repeating the actual verbiage used by these people.
Well, just because he's their mouth organ.
So again, they don't like anyone that says anything other than the Bucks are great and they should do whatever they want forever. Anyone who says anything else, they're a problem.
But how do they have time to argue about this with random people on Instagram if they're running this big multi-million-dollar organization they got going?
What do they work, a day a week, 2 days a week? That's how.
Well, hey, mailing out all that merchandise. Well, his wife does that. I forgot.
They don't move that much merch anymore, but let's go to this someone, and I don't know who this is, Pipe Bomb Gee on Instagram. I don't even know what they were responding to, but they just put cancer of wrestling. And for the record, this person's avatar is a picture of CM Punk. Nick Jackson on Instagram at NickJacksonYB replied,
Why? It should be. The question is, why be Nick Jackson?
Ha, helping get hundreds of wrestlers and production crew jobs and creating an alternative to wrestling is a weird way to think we're a cancer to wrestling, but please, keep thinking that's silly.
And they have admitted from their own chicken lips they are an alternative to wrestling. Now, hold on here 1 second. Now, we talked about kayfabe being in the dictionary, but I have right here the American Heritage Dictionary. That's better than Merriam-Webster. We don't know if Merriam-Webster is all-American or not. But alternative, hold on.
All-American? What does that have to do with it?
Well, the American Heritage Dictionary, you have all kinds of American heritage in here.
I've never heard anyone say, I don't like that Merriam-Webster dictionary. They're not all American.
Well, we don't know where they come from.
I want my dictionaries made in America.
See, we need to go to alternative, altitude, alternator, alternative. The choice between two or more exclusive possibilities, allowing or necessitating a choice between two or more things. So, if you have a choice between two or more things, that means you have a choice between wrestling or them.
Wrestling or their routine. That's what it is. You could be a wrestling fan and enjoy wrestling, and some of them are fans of the Young Bucks routine. But there's a difference between the trapeze act and the boxer. They're different things.
Here's another thing. They said, we got hundreds of wrestlers and production personnel. Most of them our own personal friends, they could have added. That's what they did. Tony Khan was mesmerized by the fact that these stars of Japanese wrestling would speak to him. And he was convinced that they knew what the fuck they were doing. There was a reason why none of them. The Buckaroos have been close to a national television promotion and used in the middle, if that. But none of the rest of their circle had ever made a goddamn impression on any major company because they weren't good enough to do anything. But they got them jobs with the billionaire, whether it be his wife doing in charge of merchandise for a national wrestling promotion, or whether it be Brandon Cutlet wandering around. How long was he on television? I'm sure he's still there. They're still paying him. But he's their fucking friend from grade school. All the outlaw people, it was, hey, we got the fucking gravy train here. They're all going to be beholden to us because we're going to get them jobs because this guy doesn't know any better, that they're not ready for national TV and they never will be. And they got a bunch of people thinking that the moon rises in their ass because they got them a job, doing their dream job that they're not qualified for. And they don't like hearing when people call them out for keeping these people employed instead of people that are qualified for the positions that their friends are in. The Puddin' Gang is on national TV, for fuck's sake. Chuck Taylor shouldn't be able to park cars at an NBA arena.
And again, Tony and Shad Khan gave all these people jobs because Tony Khan was a lifelong wrestling fan who wanted to start a wrestling company. It just so happens the Young Bucks were hot at that moment. If they weren't there, it would have been Tony trying to start something with Omega and Jericho. He would have probably tried to get Punk at that time like he did. He would have tried to get Jim Cornette at that time like he did. And various other people. Just no Young Bucks. But they make it sound like they were writing the checks with Tony. Which isn't the case at all. And like you said, no. They got a lot of their friends' jobs. Christopher Daniels.
What would happen if the Young Bucks, had called up TBS and said, "Hey, we need a meeting. We're going to do a TV show and put it on your network." And they'd say, "And who are you again?"
Yeah, and all national TV has done is expose the Young Bucks as being not as popular as people wanted to pretend they are. Someone who drives off viewers, or a team that drives off viewers. Bad skits, bad acting, bad comedy that clearly the audience doesn't care about. If you're into their matches, you get some of those matches. You don't really get those matches anymore. You see everything that you've seen every time. How many times have you seen Nick Jackson run and hold someone's hand to jump on the rope and catch the other guy with his feet?
No, wait a minute. He vaults over the top rope and gives the guy the face smash and then does a neat little backward roll across the second rope and does a backflip off the apron.
You've seen it a million times. You've seen every single move that they do a million times. There's nothing new, but that was the rather dim-witted of the Bucks. The other Buck had some comments here, too.
Wait a minute, the smart one, Pieface, he jumped in on it?
The mouthy one, Pieface, had something to say here. I hope CM Punk stops punching me. No, here's what he said. We changed the business, and we'll be discredited until the day we're both buried in the ground. But the ones who know, forever grateful that I've not been on this journey alone, so that I know it wasn't all just a dream. Love you, brother.
Oh, good Lord.
They'll be discredited until they're both buried. You'll be discredited after you're buried in the ground.
Yeah.
It's not going to end there, you idiot.
No. The video will live on. The audio will live on. People will hand these tales down to their sons and grandsons. You will always be known as a couple of smarmy little fucking twats.
And you're going to be less over tomorrow than you were today. And you're less over today than you were the day before. And this just keeps going. And
you're less over today than yesterday, but only half as over as tomorrow. Or something like that.
Well, I just, before we wrap this up, I do want to thank Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson for creating hundreds of jobs for everyone across AEW.
We should thank
selfless
them.
People.
We should thank them for giving us endless material with their fucking obnoxiousness. the obnoxiousness of them. You know, let's face it, if they would keep their mouth shut and their heads down, they came in totally unqualified for the business that they were pursuing. They fucking lucked up and got a goddamn cult following for their cheerleading routines, which lasted for a couple of years, long enough to impress a billionaire's son who's easily impressed, and get in with the right people in the group that the group migrated over and got put on national television. We should applaud that, I guess, because where else in any other line of work is somebody that less qualified and that incompetent for what the position is supposed to be achieve that level? You got to hand it to them in one way.
I hand it to them. You know what? If we really are honest, what they did on the indies was pretty incredible, because they were the first ones to get what I always thought someone should do, which is to push. If you were an indie wrestler, push yourself the way you would push an indie band. That was really successful with the merch, with the way you promote your shows, which making the shows themselves a thing. They got all that down. They are the most successful independent wrestling tag team ever. And it may be tough for anyone to ever surpass that.
They got everything down except the wrestling.
That's right.
They look like shit and they wrestle like cheerleaders. And they weren't able to do the wrestling properly or professionally. So they instead created an audience for a parody of wrestling, clown wrestling, trampoline cowboy wrestling, whatever you want to call it.
And the bad skits.
And the bad skits. And that's gotten old. And it doesn't last. And people move on from meaningless horse shit like that. And people have moved on from them in large part.
Yeah.
But in the process, they created the core audience of this particular fucking promotion that just goes expecting to see bad, fake, silly, sloppy fucking wrestling. And those are the ones that they draw on that reaction to see we're right. But the problem with that is that nobody is ever going to fucking join that group to make their crowds bigger by feeding them more bad, silly, fake, phony fucking wrestling. So they're caught as long as Tony can't get his head out of his ass and just back up and hire experienced, competent, serious people, because they can't exist with children.
And again, the Young Bucks used to be able to boost an indie crowd. Now it's the opposite. AEW comes back to a town. It's almost across the board the crowd's going to be down significantly. They keep going back to these places, and you hear they had 4,000 last time. They only had 2,000 this time. They're not able to pick up people. The Young Bucks hit their peak in terms of being able to pick up new fans, being able to get fans interested, being able to get fans to buy into their whole spiel. That's all gone now. So now they're just two guys on the roster who are no more over than anyone else on the roster. In fact, you could say that they're not as over as other people on the roster. And they're not really used particularly well either, but they make as much money as the main eventers. So what's the point of the whole thing? Tony wanted to play with them. Tony's got his little toys for the next few years.
And, well, the one thing yet, Nick. I didn't know Nick was such a badass. He kicked the shit out of two of the biggest men in the company the other night. We'll talk about that in a minute, but don't get on his bad side just because he's 5'7" and 175 pounds and it looks like he's never met a fucking muscle. He apparently is a badass. He was throwing him around.
Just like Ace Steel threw that chair.
I'll tell you what, you know what the problem is? What the problem is, Brian, the problem is we're watching the wrong show. We need new shows to watch. We're seeing the same old thing from these repetitious one-trick ponies. We need a whole new world of entertainment opened up to us. That's what we need.
I agree. I like where you're going with this. Where are you going with this?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to South Korea. And I'm going to watch Parasite.
What?
Because apparently it's available there in South Korean, the South Korean Netflix.
It's a movie? Parasite?
It's something. It's a Korean drama. And that's why I'm studying Korean right now, so I can watch it. But folks, if you want to watch anything from around the world, there are no restrictions anymore because you know,
I know. Do you know?
You know that I know that we know the people at ExpressVPN. That's what I was trying to say. You got me all verklempt there. Our friends at ExpressVPN are opening up a whole new world for you fine folks because apparently I didn't realize how bad we were getting screwed. Brian, you know, we've talked about ExpressVPN's a good way to get the people out of your walls. Your internet service providers are putting these spies in your house. We've gone over that. It's been documented. It's been on all the news. But now I'm finding out too, here in the United States of America, we don't get access to hundreds, maybe even thousands of programs that are geographically blocked and they're only available in other countries. The Office is on UK Netflix. Now, The Office is also on my television, but it might be somebody else's Office.
Well, no, there's another Office from the UK. The original version of the show was from the BBC.
Oh, I didn't know what Moxley and Claudio had to do with this. I've never seen them on. Maybe they're on the UK version of The Office. Well, if you had ExpressVPN that could fire up the UK Netflix, you'd be able to watch Moxley and Claudio on their Office over there. Because ExpressVPN lets you control where you want sites to think that you're located. Let's say the kids are fighting about which show to watch. Well, the last thing you want is violence among children, so you just send the kids to South Korea. Or maybe you send them over to the United Kingdom. Or maybe you send the little crumb snatchers just anywhere they want to go.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about you can send the kids to another country so they can watch the television programs that they enjoy through ExpressVPN.
That's exactly not the way it happens, no.
Well, it says you can choose from almost 100 different countries. Think of all the Netflix libraries that you could go through. Just go yourself. Yeah, all the Netflix libraries in 100 different countries. They give you the address of the particular library. They send you to that country. And you go through that library and see what you want to watch. And it's not just Netflix. ExpressVPN works with any streaming service. Hulu, we just talked about their hoops. The BBC iPlayer, YouTube, you name it. And ExpressVPN is unlike the hundreds of other VPNs out there, the ones with shoddy workmanship and poor customer service. ExpressVPN is ridiculously fast. There's never any buffering or any lagging or any drooping. And there's no leaking. You can stream in HD with no problem whatsoever. Have you ever tried to stream in HD and your screen starts leaking, Brian?
No, I don't think that's the way it works. I don't even know what you're talking about anymore.
Well, no, ExpressVPN brings you all these programs in all these different places that you're not supposed to see. And I mean, some places, you know, there's age restrictions on some of these. You have to be over 50 years of age to watch this program or whatever. You can get rid of all of that. You can watch of any age, any place, anytime, anywhere. It's a free world out there. And it works on all your devices, phones, media consoles, smart TVs. What about the stupid ones?
That'd be a tube TV. They don't really manufacture those anymore.
Well, I've got several.
But they don't manufacture them anymore.
Well, I've still got them. So as long as they exist, what difference does it make how old they are? That's ageism, Brian.
I didn't say anything about the age.
Well, and you better not. Right now, folks, if you want to get access to hundreds of new TV shows that you have never seen or you'd like to see again, as well as going to countries that you've never seen before and possibly would like to visit, ExpressVPN.com can send you to hundreds of locations where you can watch anything. Sometimes these people don't even know they're being watched, which adds an element of voyeurism to it. And
no,
boy, that's just exciting.
No, that's not the way it works. You're going to be watching authorized programming just from another country and authorized websites just from another country, things you may not have access to, but it won't be any sort of peeping Tom voyeuristic.
Well, how do these people know you're watching them?
Who? What people?
Do they get a memo? The people from these other countries that we're going to be keeping an eye on through ExpressVPN.
No, that's not how it works. You can watch if there's a program airing in India, you'd have access to watching the show from India.
Yeah, but they
you
might
can't
not
spy
know
on the people.
They might not know that somebody is watching them in Poughkeepsie. They might be prepared that people in India will know what they're up to, but people all around the world, you could drop in and spy on people like that.
No, you absolutely cannot spy on anyone with this. And in general, it's probably illegal to do any of these spying techniques that you would like to do. However, if you are in America and would like to access the WWE network from overseas, this is a wonderful way to do that.
Well, you could do that too, but just keep an eye out, make sure they don't spot you, because then they'd know you're watching. Right now, folks, go to expressvpn.com/JCE, and you're going to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. So whatever you purchase, you're going to get 3 more months of it for absolutely nothing. Gratis. That means you pay nothing at expressvpn.com/JCE. That's to learn more about this exciting opportunity for you to travel around the world and see exotic locations.
No.
And spy on people that don't know they're being watched.
No, you will sit at home and you will go to your computer and you will watch programs and leave people alone because there's no way to use this and spy on people. That was the funny portion of the spot, but the reality of the spot is that you could use ExpressVPN and access wonderful programs like the Great British Spelling Bee, or Sewing Bee, not Spelling Bee. Sewing Bee from England. You don't want to watch their spelling bee.
You know that
throw a lot of U's in those words.
There'd be a wrinkle thrown in there with all the U's in those words. That's right.
I just said that.
Well, I was reiterating it. And who are you to tell people what to do? You will go to your computer and you will do this and that and the other thing. Who died and left you, boss, as Mama Cornette used to say?
No one died, and I'm not trying to be the boss. I'm trying to help people on their ExpressVPN
journey. Well, be a little nicer. Suggest that if you would please go to your computer and please go to expressvpn.com/JCE, and you'll be so excited at the wonderful things that you'll find there and the ways that you could keep an eye on people against their will. expressvpn.com/JCE.
There will be no one you'll be watching against their will, and of course that's part of the funny
Who knows? They
portion.
may like it.
No one will
why else are they in front of the window with no clothes on?
I don't understand how you think this works. You think there's just like random camera people linked up to ExpressVPN?
Well, it says you're going to get access to a bunch of shows that you've never seen before. That are only available in other countries and not available here to you and me, us normal folks.
That means professionally produced programs, it's not a show just to have some guy film someone on a balcony.
Well, I've seen some cable access that would disagree.
Well, this is not cable access, ladies and gentlemen. This is ExpressVPN. What's the promo code? Are you saying
that ExpressVPN, you can't get access to cable?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, then there you go.
No, there I do not go. There you don't go. I go where I go. But there's a difference between cable access and access to cable. What's the promo code again, Jim?
Wait a minute, you got... What? Give me that again. You got to go north to go east? What?
There's a difference.
ExpressVPN.com/JCE. Difference between access to cable and cable access.
There is. Well,